Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success and what they have learned along the way. Well, hello and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women, everyone. Today I have to introduce to you Marley Majcher, who is the CEO of the Party Goddess and the Profit Goddess. And we are going to be talking all things event planning, how to do that to an incredible scale with celebrities and everyone who wants to have your event booking business, and also how did Marley shape her journey to become an entrepreneur who had a passion, who then turned it into her actual real deal, and all the challenges that come with that, because I know that we all struggle with that. It's really hard making your dream a reality that just is enjoyable to live and breathe every day. So welcome to the program, Marley.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Who are you, Marley, and where is your business operating from?
So, okay, who I am is like where I'm operating from is LA, and that's the easiest part of the question. Other than after that, it goes like completely off the rails. But so I have an LA-based catering and event planning company called the Party Goddess, and I ended up writing a business book to solve my own problems. So when people say like, oh, what's the deal with the Profit Goddess? I just kind of call it like my goddess umbrella, right? That kind of protects me. And basically I left LA and I went to school. I went to Georgetown and got my business degree. And unlike people who go to Georgetown, I did not go into finance or law or anything. I went into event planning. Just kind of a long story because I married a chef, et cetera, but we can, skip over that if we're at it. And I married a chef, and then I got into the restaurant and had all kinds of, dramas from that. And net, my hand got forced kind of when I had a really bad skiing accident. And my dad was like, why don't you just do the events? Like, that's what you love, and because we kept getting all these offers to partner up with the restaurant. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't want to let go of that, even though I did love the restaurant, but there's so many things and so when my hand got, and what do you do? So I was like, well, an event planning company, I'm going to bigger go home moment and call it the Party Goddess. But then what, that saying goes is like, wherever you go, that's where you are. And it's kind of like, if you don't handle your issue from before, it's a relationship and taking them with you, or it's a business or anything else. If you don't learn your lessons, they just kind of keep coming back. And so now, or at that point when I had started the Party Goddess, I didn't have 100 employees like I used to with the restaurant business. And I didn't have so many complicated components, but, and once again, I had this life that looked really great on the outside. But what I realized was that I still had most of the same, if not all the same problems, which were that I didn't understand my margins enough. And I didn't understand, I was so focused on my sales goals. Like, I'm going to hit this $1 million in sales, which I did, the year I started the restaurant and basically every year since. And I just didn't connect, even though I'd gone to Georgetown. It's not Georgetown's fault. That when you set a sales goal, or you need to set the profit goal, because you can't have a sales goal of $1 million and then spend 1.2, but that seemed to be lost on me, tremendously lost. So I started, doing events, and just once again got off on this trail of amazing website and fabulous clients and all this stuff, and started to lose my way. And you can have the most creative business in the whole wide world, but if it isn't making any money and you feel a slave to it, you are going to not be a happy camper.
Exactly. I think you have pinpointed this story that so many people globally have gone through. That whole idea of because suddenly you're following your passion, right? You're just like, I'm so passionate about this. I want all these, that's right. It's all about sales and people wanting your product. But if you're not focusing on the profit, which is obviously, at the end of the day, why we want to pour in those hours and hours and hours into business, then that's right. What's the point? All right.
Well, yeah, it's like it's 100% selling the sizzle and not the steak. It's like you bought the sizzle and then you tasted the steak and the steak was rotten. I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to. It's like, wait a second, we missed the point here. So
I know, but everyone from the outside thinks, oh my God, Marley's like the queen, everything is happening. In such an incredible way. She's like the golden girl. She's the success story. So you're sitting there behind the scenes going, oh my God, like I'm working my ass off, business. Yeah. And I do have all this stuff going through, but my expenses are huge and now I'm not making any profit. So that's a good place to be in, isn't it? People have a different perception of you.
Well, completely. And I think it's really, 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 it's more important to emphasize now even than when I started doing, when I wrote my book or whatever, because now then we didn't have Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff that are like driving people, to jump off bridges because their lives aren't perfect enough. Right. So I want to underscore that part, that just because something looks so great on the outside doesn't mean it all is, right? There's so much more to the whole story. And we have to just take our own path with our own goals and focus on the right things, but nobody has it easy. And then the rest of us, it's difficult. It's like, if you're successful and you're crushing it instead of being crushed, which is like how I was getting crushed. I wasn't, I looked like I was crushing it. Then there's going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. There is no other way. I mean, it's the overnight success that, it's like, oh yeah, it's an overnight success that took 25 years in the making. All right. Well, there you go. As long as you're upfront about that, but instead of acting like, oh, I just, landed here on my pink cloud and here you go. It's like, no.
And everyone who says they do is like, I'm going to call bullshit on that. Like that's right. It's just, it can look so easy and calm, but anyone who is succeeding, who is doing an incredible amount of work, and that's actually one of the first steps we'll say, whatever you're doing at the moment, pour in more effort and more hours generally, and then you want to do it smarter, wiser, more effectively, and efficiently. But, it's a massive amount of effort behind it. So you've gone from this situation that you're incredibly successful in the restaurant business to then putting the party event. How did that feel? How did that feel, just stepping into a new space, and it's just so much harder than you think?
It's awful. I don't know how else. It's like childbirth without medication, and then you're going to have a C-section on top of it. I mean, it's awful because I think like I've started a lot of businesses, and I'm a serial entrepreneur my whole life. And I know how difficult it is, but somehow every time I start one, I see how difficult it is. And so there's a cushion and something nice about the familiar, right? Like, even if it's not so great, it's like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And so even though there were changes I wanted to make in being in the restaurant business, then you have this huge learning curve switching to events. And yes, we were doing events at the restaurant. Yes, we were running a catering company. But when you hang out your shingle and say, hey, listen, I'm now going to do the food, the staff, the beverages, the entertainment, now you're dealing with entertainment writers and all this stuff. You have like a learn curve in each of those verticals. And you just are like, once again, I'm like, what have I done? Like, have I just decided I just want to like jump off bridge A, because that's what it feels like. It was not particularly fun. In fact, I remember like when it would go well, like when we did the opening of the Hollywood Bowl or something, and I remember sitting there like listening to Stevie Wonder practice, and I remember thinking, I better freaking enjoy this moment because they are few and far between. Now, of course, they're much they happen much more frequently, and I'm much more relaxed. And I don't want to say, knock on that I've been there and I've done that, but I mean, I feel like I've been everywhere.
Yeah.
And you become less afraid of things, like become less, you're like, oh, an audit, whatever. Like I've already had 100 of those, you're like, oh, it's just like next.
And that's what I want the listeners to know, because when you're in when you've been doing something and you're at that other stage of longevity, experience, success, if you like, in a specific niche, then that's why it looks easy, right? And it actually is, because practice doesn't make perfect, but it certainly it does make a permanent sort of situation of I'm comfortable doing what I am doing the way I do it. And so those who are listening and going, oh my gosh, I have these people that I look at and they make it look so easy. Well, that's actually only because, in your space, I in my space, we've been doing it a lot of years. And therefore, it's just like riding a bike, things are easy, but it wasn't always, no one starts in any of these massive learning curves going, oh yeah, that's right, I don't know anything about it, but I'm like so comfortable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like falling down and then like falling on a skinned knee upon a skinned knee. And then like, oh, whoops, here's some salt. It's just not fun. But the thing is, now I kind of understand. I mean, it's not like I'm old enough to have grandchildren, but I mean, I guess maybe technically I would be, but I'm not, it's not like I'm a billion years old. But and now I kind of understand when people say like how much they enjoy their grandchildren, like, oh, not more than their kids maybe, but like whatever, how much they enjoy their grandchildren, because there's that, and everybody says the same thing. It's like, because you're not responsible for them at the end of the day, they go home to their parents and that whole thing. And I remember when my kids were young, that just total anxiety, right? And then it's like everybody starts graduating to these new stages. And I just remember for so many, I mean, it feels like decades being an entrepreneur, like half the time being scared to open the mail, like, oh, this looks like an official, like it's going to have some kind of bad news, or like, what do I do? And now you're just like, yeah, okay. I mean, I wouldn't even skip a beat about it. And then I would be like, oh, okay, a lawsuit. All right, we'll deal with this on Monday. Like, but whereas before I probably would have tried to find like emergencylawyer.com, to get on retainer and like, can you look at, and it's just not everything is necessarily a big deal, but in the beginning for so long, you don't know what's a big deal and what isn't a big deal.
I think that is such a key point. That's right. Knowing what your emergencies are, knowing how to triage them, in your brain, and then even how to, once you've actually even triaged them, how to actually respond to them, in the sense of panic, or the sense of, alarm or control, or, okay, yeah, here's something new, I'll deal with that on Monday. It's just that, I think a lot of people go, well, how is that possible? Is it that person's nature? Usually not. Some people obviously are calmer and some people are more reactive, and, there's a sense in there. But most of the time it's actually just like, well, I've had stuff before, I've actually lived this journey before. I've gone through that and I worried more than I needed to be, or there are people who will deal with this. So you can actually go and have a lovely weekend and then go, yes, I can actually, you learn to delay. And it's not an emergency. It's just, that response of I get something and I urgently have to do it. But then it takes your focus away from all these other things that were already on your to-do list, which were obviously there for a reason. So I think, have you found that you just become less distractible? Which is
you become less distractible in it, which is huge. And I find that, but also becoming less distractible takes you have to continuously try to become less distractible. Like you have to really have your eye on the prize. I mean, I've always been a huge one about written goals. I should get like a penny every time I say the words written goals, but I just believe that, you have to be heading towards something. Otherwise, the devil's hands will make a big mess of all kinds of stuff. But if you have a positive direction, then, you're heading in the right place, but you do still have to work at it, right? Because then there is such a thing as getting complacent, right? And then some of us who got complacent and then COVID hits and now all of a sudden something that we thought never could happen, which is the whole world being shut down, right? Like, I mean, we've had the financial crises that sure affected the US, and then because of that affected some of the major markets, but you haven't had anything that's like, it affected Botswana, just like it affected LA, which is what happened, with COVID, where it did not matter if you were living in a yurt 10,000 miles from here,
Stop the world. Yeah.
The world stopped, and you're all of a sudden going, oh, wait a minute, but how am I going to pay my mortgage or my rent or my, whatever. And the other piece I start thinking of too is, but because I have 3 kids, is by the third, why people would joke and say, the first child, you're like, sanitizing the pacifier practically. And it's like, by the time my third was, I mean, you're just like, whatever.
You're just picking it up off the floor at Walmart and going,
right? Like, how long was it in the dirt? And how big was the store it dropped in? Like, not a lot of traffic on aisle 5. We're good. Let alone
5, that's right. A little bit of dirt, you'll be right. It'll actually prop you up.
Yeah, that's called immunity, like character building and immunity building. I mean, it's just so silly, but I don't mean to, I'm not trying to minimize it, because believe me, you're talking to the girl who has shed more tears over business than I have to say any human alive. I should get a gold medal for shedding tears over my businesses. But I also do want to say you will get to the other side if you keep at it. It might seem like you will not, but you will. But it's just a good thing to remember when you're in those, dark days, that we all do have them. And I will still have them, but maybe not then.
So true. Everyone will have them. So if you're sitting there going, why me? What is wrong with me? Why can't I work it out? Give yourself a massive break. It's actually not just you, it's everybody who learns anything new. Even when you've learned it, that's right. As you said, the situation can change. You suddenly have to go, okay, well, I have to, adapt to a global pandemic. I have to adapt to, suddenly what I'm even selling or producing isn't what people are going for at the moment. You have to be able to readily adapt in different situations. So you'll always be going through these new learning curves, right? I mean, I've just learned how to read. I've gone a bit geeky and just redone my website and learning platform and shifted it all over. And that's right, learning curve. And one way, once you're more sort of stable, you can outsource different things. But then there's an element when you're a CEO, you go, well, I want to know how all the aspects work. I want to know what I'm paying for. And I'm a bit more like that. I'm like going, well, I want to know all the factors so that when I outsource it, I know what they're doing.
That is and that's a great point. And I learned that finally the hard way many years ago, but still, where I felt like I had was like held hostage by one too many fill in the blank, whether it was a website developer or like we use Infusionsoft for our marketing campaigns, or like QuickBooks, or, whatever language XYZ quote expert. And I say quote because it's taken me a really long time to realize that there are very few experts in the world. But that I just was like, there's a difference between me doing my own bookkeeping and me understanding QuickBooks top to bottom, because you become un-BSable. I won't say the word on your podcast, but it's true. When you know what goes into it, and it becomes much harder to pull something over on you, and you will not just take like, oh, well, it's complicated. Like now when somebody says it's complicated to me, I'm like, okay, well, explain why. And now I keep pushing. And I can't tell you that the last time I had a conversation, I mean, I honestly can't tell you now. I'm really trying to think. I can't tell you the last time I had a conversation that ended where it was still complicated. No, the person wanted me to think it was still complicated, but I was not knotted up by the end. In fact, was very clear that they had a complicated story that had nothing to do with how QuickBooks functions,
Exactly. Exactly. It's like when we send our car off to the mechanic and it's like they can charge you anything because they go, oh, wow, this was a lot more complicated than you imagine. And da, da, da. At the end of the day, you go, was it? Was it? Because we don't know, right? We don't know actually what they're doing. And so, okay, you know, on that time, once a year or so, when you send it off for your thing, you're just like, I think they're kidding me. Whereas exactly that, I do that, you know, in all of my business, I go, I want to know every element because I've been in those situations before that, you know, particularly an IT issue or something, they'll say, oh, that's going to cost quite a lot. It's quite technical to change it. And now I'm in it going, it's actually just a button. It's just writing a little bit of script or it's this, that. It's not, nothing is really complicated if you actually have the skills, like, right? It's like, just work it out, find someone who does, write a code, have an app, do something.
Yeah. And then
not difficult. Like everything I think is quite, you know, even the most crazy stuff is simple for those who know and are aware of what they're doing. And so you've got to get over the drama, right? The drama and the lies and the BS, and then go, okay, show me
and
one.
realize and ask yourself what somebody's agenda could be. Because when I started asking myself that, and by the way, I'm not implying that everybody consciously has an agenda. But what I am implying is that, remember, it is much easier to keep the customer, whatever, in the dark than explain the steps, right? So somebody's agenda could just be having it seem very busy and complicated because then they have a job, right? And so now my new technique, I shouldn't say new because it's now been a couple of years, but I'm telling you, it's magic, is now I will just say, great, do me a favor, share your screen. Because no, I still don't understand why it's complicated. Oh my word, when you have somebody share their screen, that should be the tip of this entire podcast, share your screen. Because guess what? It's a pop-up, so they don't know you're going to say share your screen. So you see what kind of hot mess they have on their desktop, right? You see if they're organized, you see if they have like, believe you can do it like everywhere, which I think is amazing, but it's a different, you just get a lot of intel. And then when you're like, okay, well, pop around, show me the back end, or show me whether it's the website or QuickBooks, or because here's why. You don't even have to know what you're looking for, but you can tell right out the gate how proficient somebody is at what they're supposed to be proficient at, right?
Because so true.
Because they can be like, oh, like if somebody's stumbling on the phone and you're not sharing screens, it could be, well, they've got tongue tied. But if you're an IT designer or you build websites on XYZ platform, well, you should be moving around in it very quickly. It's just like me with Gmail or setting up filters or setting up, sequences. Well, I can interview somebody and they'll say, yes, I know how to do that. And great. Well, I might not set up a filter how you wanted it done exactly, but you would know in about 3 seconds that I know exactly how to do it. Because I'm like, bam, 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 bam. I'm not sitting there trying to sit down at the piano and be like, oh, whoops, what's a chord, So that's my next question is my next suggestion is say, yeah, why don't you just share your screen, hot stuff? And then, boy, the emperor's clothes just disappear.
I think that is the best tip of my day. I'm just like, yes, I'm going to embrace that because that is just so true. You can just see the speed that someone works, the confidence, the less steps, because if you're proficient, if that's your thing, that's right. You just go boom, 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 boom. It's not hard. When it suddenly looks complicated or they're like, oh, this, and they don't even do it in the right logical steps, or they'll see their mind thinking, when you're an expert in something, it's amazing who thinks they're an expert, but it's actually auto. It's like, and I've been to things and people go, would you have any notes? I'll go, no, I actually just know my stuff. Like I know, like I don't need a note. If I'm looking at a note, I'm actually slowing down and thinking too much. If you're asking me to speak on women's leadership or empowerment or this or that, that's what I do. You don't need the notes, right? And so it's a bit like that. That's what you're saying. It's like going, okay, well, if you're my IT expert or you're my, auditor or whatever, it's like, well, you should just be thinking systems processing, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Do it.
How are the files organized? If you're a web designer, do you have the client file and then the images and then the text and then the notes and then the But it is just truly amazing. I mean, I can't even tell you, especially, I hate to say it, but a chick, me, Grant and I have like a snarky side when I feel like I, somebody's pulling something over on me, but I can't tell you how many male owners of companies I have had yell and hang up because I will be like, well, okay, just show me. This one guy had been charging us, I don't know for how many years, something like $895 a month for these backups. And I said, just share your screen. Just show me where these backups are because I can't find them freaking anywhere, right? And $895 a month for years is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it was like basically live on camera. He figured out that his employee wasn't doing the backups and he couldn't show me where they were.
Oh my God.
And he was like, well, and every time he went left, I went left with him and said, okay, well, maybe it's on another server. Maybe it's not. Okay, well, I've got time. I'll wait.
Yeah.
So, okay, log on to the other server. I mean, it's just amazing the level of excuses. And he finally just started yelling and hung up and said, fine, I'll refund the whatever. And I was like, refund? I didn't ask for a refund. I just asked to say, and I'm going to just show me.
So one, I will have my refund for many, many, many years. And two, but that wasn't the point. I think the point is show me the evidence, show me the evidence of what you're doing or how you're doing it. And then that's all you're actually asking. It's actually going, I'm open and transparent. If you're confident in the product that you're selling, how you're doing it, whatever, then you should be happy for someone to review it.
I was just going to say, that's the key thing. And people go, oh my gosh, like would the person be offended? It's like offended. This is like saying to this, like if you say, hey, listen, like, can I come to your office? I am so ecstatic and proud to show you how everything is perfectly organized, how we have our systems of this is and this. I couldn't be prouder because nobody ever asked to see under the hood. So it's like, you want to see under the hood? Oh, allow me. I will show you, it'll be the hood and then I'll show you under that hood and then under that nuts and bolts. I mean, because
they think it's like, oh my gosh, are you going to give away your secrets? It's like, that's not your secrets. That's just the framework for how you work efficiently, professionally. It's funny. I've worked in the health sector for, most of my career. And so I've done a lot of work with surgeons, doctors. And so opposite model, everything is open and transparent. They'll almost, as they're operating, they're going, and why are you doing that, sir? And then they'll go, oh, okay, well, I'm approaching this and this and this. And, what's your rationale? What's your, everything is the opposite. Everything is so open to critique. They even have every week they'll pull some cases. Yeah. Everyone can rip them apart as to how they manage that case, why they made those choices. And what does it do? It breeds excellence. It actually goes and says, I'm not hiding anything. I'm open to critique. I'm wanting to be my best in my area. And so I tell you what, although it looks really intimidating, they're actually really cool because they're not carrying anything. They're not trying to hide anything.
It looks intimidating to the guy who is embezzling. That's what, those are the ones who are freaking out, right? Yes. Are the ones that want you to look in the corner. But like if if they're just looking at a snippet of a video of XYZ surgery, like my dad is a doctor. I know exactly what you're talking about. And if they say, okay, they show a snippet of it and they say, well, why did you do this or this or this? Well, that's when you then take into context, like, well, I was in an operating room and is blah, 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 versus, well, guess what? He was operating on the side of a freeway because there was no other choice. Well, so yes, it could have been done differently. Exactly. However, we were looking to save 3 out of 4 limbs as opposed to just, so you kind of do what you have to do, but there's a rationale, right? Like I always say even to my team, I don't necessarily have to say I would have done that. But you telling me I did this because boom, 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 that shows me critical thinking. That's what I'm after. I'm not after perfection. I am after somebody who freaking has a brain and who can say, I did it because of this and this and this. Now, if their logic is, well, I did it because it was raining outside and I was bored and, oh, by the way, I was drunk. Well, you go, okay, well, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Your plan B is not very good. I love what you said before about it's someone else's business model or looking at their agenda. And I think that's a really important one to highlight to the listeners that, often you'll go to someone and there's a 4-step process, but they'll tell you 3. It's like ordering your Thai dinner and then they actually say, do you want rice with that? Like who doesn't order rice? right? So you just go, and so they'll give you your 3, and then when you just go, okay, that was really helpful, but it's not kind of connecting, and they do it deliberately because they want you to come back, because that's their next, oh well, that's going to cost you triple the price, but I'm obviously happy to give you the last key. It's the key secret. So that's what you actually want to know. What am I getting, and is this the actual solution to my problem?
Well, is it a solution, or is it the advertisement of the solution? Because they're very different things,
Very different things.
A cloud looks very fluffy to play on, but behind it, there is nothing to play on, right? It is, so there is a hologram of P. Diddy, and then there is P. Diddy, I mean, they're very different things. So, but it's just kind of part of your check the box system. And I hope in life everything checks out. But unfortunately these days, with catfishing and fraud and identity theft, everybody can steal everything. Before, as event planners, we used to be worried that you were, oh my gosh, they're going to steal the pictures on my website. Oh, for the love of Jesus on the cross, steal the pictures on my website. That's the least of my problems, right? Now I'm worried that you're going to steal the digits off my bank account and everything, in it, and show up at the school board meeting as me, being hammered, and, I lose my kids. It just, the game has changed. Exactly. So you have to change the tools in your toolbox.
I think this is just such a fascinating conversation, because it's exactly right. Even when you're at the top of your game, you're constantly step ahead, thinking about cybercrime, thinking about those who work with you. What is their, what's their integrity? What's their agenda? Different people's agendas, even within your workplace. I mean, I've coached people who, their top chef will have stolen all of their, recipes and then set up and bits and pieces. Right. It's one of those. It's a really challenging part of business when you want to have ultimate trust and transparency. And then also, who is your competitor? What are they trying to do? And then the malicious side of things, that's right. You have to be super aware, because everybody is hackable. Everybody, if there is a reward for someone, they will try it on you. So, it's one of those, how do you stay a nice person in business, with you, but you can be still lovely, but also don't be stupid, make sure that your doors are locked.
Exactly. I think you'd be a very nice person in business by starting the same way with everybody, saying, hey, listen, I'm going to have you, have the contract signed when it's all good. We have everybody sign a confidentiality agreement. We have everybody sign their tax paperwork. We have everybody do, all these things in the very beginning. Please don't be offended. And by the way, anybody who's not up to anything is not offended in the least, because that's just standard operating procedure, right?
Yes.
And so if they are offended, it's because A, they're hiding something, or B, they're too inexperienced to not, then that's its own red flag. So you just say, okay. And if you have everybody do that have your system of checks and balances and keep blaming it on that, listen, which, it's true. It's I have a certain amount of insurance we have to carry, and I need to have certain protocols in place in order to do that. And I really don't want to lie that I have them in place if I don't. So you just say, listen, I know there are a couple extra, hoops here, but then, and you just keep it all on the up and up, but you can't, you can relax things a bit once you have that track record with somebody. But no, in lieu of the track record, you don't just say, I'm nice. Please trust me with your Ferrari keys. Well, you probably are nice. Great. Probably have nothing to worry about. But my insurance company would like me to be a little more careful with the keys I hand my car.
That's true. And that's why we have contracts on things. Everyone's lovely when you first meet them, but when you have a problem and you dive into the contract, you want to make sure that every little I is dotted, and and that's just smart business. It's a smart way to live your life. Oh my goodness. So tell us about now being the queen though of your party planning business. What is it like, what is the difference of the different people that you meet, their different demands? How flexible have you been? What is it like to be in this industry?
Well, what it's like being in the industry is one thing. What it's like being, at a certain level, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just trying to say it's different, because there are, now we are very selective with the people with whom we work. in the beginning or even in the middle or even, not very long ago, you're not as selective because you can't be, you need to pay the light bill, right?
Mhm.
Now, fortunately, I'm at a spot where I've made a decision that I want it to be a good fit. Yes, of course, for the client, but I also want it to be a good fit for me. And, once you've done thousands and thousands, literally, of events, I like to keep on top of my game, and I like to keep and be inspired. And, money can be very inspiring. I mean, if somebody throws 2 tons of money at you, that's definitely a consideration. But I like to have some piece of the project that I want to spend, because I'm going to spend so much time. There's probably going to be, in the process of planning it, a kid's birthday I'm going to have to miss. There's going to be some party I'm going to want to go to that I'm not going to be able to go to just because of the time constraints. So you want to make sure that you really are pouring yourself into a project, that you love. So now it's ironic because I find myself surrounded by people who are more like me. And by the way, what I mean by that is I'm not talking politically. What I am talking about is people who like take their business or even if they don't work and they're hiring me to do a social event, like take it seriously, and they don't want to waste people's time and I don't want to waste people's time, right? Like it has to be a match. Like they're respectful that, you can be a few minutes late because something happens, but you can't take it too far. Like there's that give and take and that kind of synergy with things. And the nice thing for me is the higher and higher and higher I've gone, and the wealthier and wealthier and wealthier people are, you learn so many interesting things, a few of which are sometimes the wealthiest people are the chillest of all. I can't even tell you some of the most high maintenance people ever, the ones that I'm like, really? Like, are you the CEO of Motorola? Because my word, the attitude, and sometimes you realize like we have a bunch of billionaire clients and it's no problem, right?
Exactly.
Not necessarily every single one, but you realize, and then you kind of realize that like I'm so detail oriented and I drive my children crazy, and I've always driven my family crazy with like boom, 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 having all my ducks in a row. But the higher you go in something like event planning or, a field where details are very important, is if you want to be paid the top of your game or the top of your field or the top of any field, you better be really good, really efficient, and very detail oriented. Because when you're dealing with the kind of clients who, I'm asking them for a lot of money. Yeah. Somebody else charge them a ton less, but I'm asking them for a lot of money. My position is it's going to be edgy, cooler, the process is going to be smoother, et cetera, et cetera. But in order for me to do that, I have to deliver on that.
Exactly.
And so if somebody says, and this is where luxury is changing so much, and people who aren't kind of living it don't understand it as well, is that, used to be a fancy car in the most expensive hotel room. That's not luxury anymore. Luxury can, no makeup and jeans. But if I say I want my venti cappuccino 2% with 2 equals with kind of dry, kind of, and I say I'm willing to pay for that, that is luxury to me, right? I want it exactly how I want it. Yes, I will pay maybe 5 times more than I should because I want it exactly that way. Because I don't, have that much free time to be on vacation or whatever it is. So that's how luxury and how the world has changed for me, is you become even a better listener and you take notes and you realize somebody's off the cuff remark, kind of when you're starting out, you're not getting paid that much. I'm not saying that anybody's off the cuff remark shouldn't be important, but it's a lot less important than when somebody is way up here paying you a lot of money. They're off the cuff remark that onions aren't their favorite. Well, freaking, you better not have onions anywhere.
Yeah.
And not their favorite might as well have been a bomb dropping, in your living room, and you better take note. And you you start to really pay attention and realize it is all in the details and is all in the subtleties of what people like and what they don't like.
Yeah, particularly in your business, exactly that. It's having a general product that is then customizable to the nth degree for a specific client, because that's why they're happy to pay the money. That's what you're saying. It's like, it's not about the money. I have ridiculous amounts of money. I just want to know when I've got my event, everything happens in my way. It doesn't even make sense to anyone else, and that doesn't even matter. This is what I want at this moment, and therefore, if you produce that, then it's gold. Right? Because that's right. They don't have the time. That's right. They're jetting in, they're jetting out. They've got their besties coming. It's their brand. It's their everything. So this is where we sometimes, it's so easy to put our going, oh, well, it'd be better if it was this dish, or it would be better if it was this way. Because that's what we do. Actually, it's better if it's what they want.
Right.
And what they want, when they want it, how they want it.
And it's so true. Like, it's like, if I'm, like, we have this college girl that's working with us, just, kind of with the kids in the house and the driving and stuff like that. And she is getting paid. I mean, I was just looking at the kind of charges I've been paying in the last few weeks, and it's a ridiculous amount of money. And I was thinking, for this girl to be making for what she's doing, but it is intentional on my part. And I am intentionally going to keep it up, because you want to know why? And I said this to this girl in the very beginning. I was like, you will be very rich, but you will need to respond fast and be available. Because my whole thing is, it's like, frick, I forgot to pick so-and-so up, or frick, I forgot XYZ. So I need to be able to be like, oh my gosh, can you go get XYZ in 30 minutes? And yeah, I'm going to pay a premium for it, but you have to be wired that way, right? And so many people think like, oh, well, if I just did, I'm going to pay you extra if I know I'm going to hear from you in a certain amount of time.
That might be, give me that extra call to say you've arrived. Give me that extra call to say something else has happened, because you know me, you know what my anxieties are like. I'm actually asked, in that position, you're actually going, you're cloning me so that you can do it the way I would do it, and I want that, if I have anxiety about, was the child picked up on time? Let me know. If something else, if they've had a bad day or they got bullied, tell me now. I don't want to hear, whatever. So there's so many factors that it doesn't make sense. One, you're wanting someone to have that X factor, and that's why you're going to get paid more, because you're worth it, right? You're efficient and you're doing the task, and you're someone else's dream. Like, yes, absolutely, they'll pay you top dollar.
You're getting in front of the problems too. That's what you're paying the premium for. You're getting in front of it.
And you're not charging them you're not paying them to then go, oh, I know you wanted that, but I thought this was a better idea. It's like,
no, I'll be like,
now.
Idiot. I'll be like, oh, you are no, I said I want Pantone pink XYZ because I want Pantone pink XYZ. And I don't care if you'd like to projectile vomit every time you see it. I want it. I know what color it is. Give it to me.
I know. I love that. I love it when you see those house shows and you can see the judges or something coming in and go, ooh, that's horrible. You're kind of like going, this person is so wealthy and they love it. If they want to have their red and black bathroom and they're this with their gold and they're this and that, you know what? If it floats their boat and they love it, living in it, like happy days. It's really funny. It's like, no, it's just, there's so many things that are just subjective, right? It's just like.
And it is so, and I always say, like, the people I coach and stuff, it doesn't matter if you would spend your money on that. Like sometimes with event planners, they'll be like, well, I don't want to charge them. I would charge that much. I would never pay that much. And I just try to keep getting out of that. It doesn't matter if you would pay that much. Exactly. It matters if they will pay that much, because their calendar is so tight. It's the equivalent of taking like, Uber group versus like the VIP thing. Well, if you got to pay extra for the VIP thing, but you're going to get there exactly when you want, then I don't even care. I don't want to have 3 minutes of anxiety. So I'll pay extra.
So true. One of my gorgeous friends here in Sydney, Australia is she's the founder of Sweet Art Cakes. And I tell you what, I mean, she's been flown around the world to create cakes at ridiculous amounts of money, because when they love her cakes, they love her style, you know, that's right. And you go, who gets flown around to, Bahrain to then suddenly make a cake for some sheik or something, and you kind of go, well, she did, because they liked it. Whatever she did, whatever her formula was exactly what they wanted, and you just go, oh, well done you.
Right. And they like the cake, and I guarantee you, most probably they really liked dealing with her and they didn't have to worry about the cake.
It's confidence. It's confidence in the result. You know, when you have confidence in the result, it doesn't matter if even if you deliver at the, on the dot, but there was all this anxiety. If you've created someone anxiety for that last hour, they're sweating on it, then it's still, even though they got what they wanted, it wasn't an enjoyable experience, right? So you're actually trying to give them peace and calm so they can just chill and go, oh, I had total confidence it was going to happen, and it did exactly the way I wanted.
Or my favorite is when people say, well, it all ended up okay. I'm like, oh my, you need to step aside. You need to step it. Maybe it did all end up the way you wanted it, but I'm sorry. The 90 milliliters of Botox I now need to get because of the new wrinkles that you have given me in the last 24 hours. I don't care about that. I don't care.
Oh my gosh, we could talk all day, but unfortunately we've nearly been chatting away for an hour. I can't believe it. How do people find you, Marley, if they're wanting to book a party, make something amazing happen in the way they want, not what someone else wants?
I know, not what somebody else wants. Well, of course they can find me on Instagram at the Party Goddess, 2 D's, 2 S's. They can of course find us on the website, thepartygoddess.com. And if they are a business owner and they want coaching, or they want kind of this whole oh my gosh, I need to get my pricing straight, and how do I make the money between the wallpaper and the wall? They can do this free course that we have, and you just go to mini.theprofitgoddess.com and you just sign up and you get all your free stuff. So that's how they find me.
Awesome free stuff. I will put all of your details on my podcast platform, of course, for our listeners. And definitely, seriously, guys, how much have you learned on this conversation, on just the journey, the challenges, the way someone at the top of her game will actually think and plan and make things happen. And this is important for people to know at different stages of their journey. The people who are actually leading these companies, that's right. They're lovely people. They just expect the results in a certain way. And so when you need to learn from this, you need to learn and grow and never shy away from critique or be asked to show the detail of what you've done. Be proud of the detail of what you've done. And if you're not proud of it, then actually start looking at your systems and processes and go, wow, this is why people are that step ahead of me. This is because this is the way they operate. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing because you then get to be chilled. You're not hiding anything. You're open. Yep. Check it out.
Come over, take a look. I'd love it. Thrilled. Imagine you'll give me a testimonial just on how clean my warehouse is. Yeah, exactly. Great. Please come.
Fantastic. So event planning, go to Marley. If you want to know about how to make more profit, make sure your business is set up, go to Marley. Everyone, check her out, check out her website, and let's leave our listeners with a little tip today. What do you encourage someone who is just, bashing their head against the wall? They're at that stage you were at years ago when you've gone, I've got my passion, I'm trying really hard, I'm just feeling I've got a block. What's your best bit of advice for them today?
You have to ask for help. You have to figure out whose message you resonate with, and you have to ask for help, because you cannot read the label from inside the jar. There is going to be a coach out there who's going to be able to look at this and be like, oh, this is a problem. Boom, boom, boom. But when it's just like when your friend is dating a loser and everybody's like, oh my God, what is she thinking? Right? It's so obvious. But to the girl who's dating the loser, it's like, well, I don't know what the problem is. Well, the problem is he's cheating, and he's catfishing you, and he's homeless, and he's all these things that he's telling you he's not. But when you're in the situation, it seems impossible. So just ask for help, of course, from somebody who's been down that road and knows what to do. But you have to ask for help. I have never seen anybody solve a problem themselves that wasn't solved a lot more quickly by somebody who really knew what they were doing.
Absolutely. Brilliant advice. Fantastic. Thank you for being on my show today.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes and, of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.